be able to shrink this meeting.
Tēnā tātou katoa e tātou mea, koe hui mai nei ki tēnei pō. Ka mihi ake, tarofa lava, mā lo lelei, popongi, ki o rana, Nisambula, Bola Vinaka, Anyong, Say Yong, Ni Hao Ma, and any Australians in the house. G'day, mates. G'day, buddies. G'day, everybody. Hope everybody is well. God is good. Blessings be to everybody. And I'm just going to press got it. Yeah, cool, Sam. Thank you, Sam. Cool. I just saw that little message there. But greetings to everybody tonight. Hope everybody is well and being in the best place possible. That we are a seed. We are all a seed born from greatness. We absolutely are. And every single one of you that is on there, whether I know you or not, you're all special. We all have a purpose and we're all good at something. We all have a gift and a talent. So blessings to everybody that's here tonight. It's an honor to start off with a little bit of a jam and let us begin in a word of prayer tonight. Let us pray. Kei noi tātou, e te atua he maunga rongo ki te whenua, he whakaro pai ki ngā tangata katoa. E te atua kaharawa ki a mātou ki tēnei wā, ki tēnei haora e te porofita nei, i te manaki e te tiakina mai ki a tātou, i roto i te aroha, i roto i te rangi mārie, ki tāu ingo a tapuko ihu karaiti. Father, give thanks, praise, honor, and glory to your name. Bless this space tonight for the many that are gathered here online. I pray for your the well-being to be nurtured in this space and to bless the people that will be sharing this evening in the richness of what they have to share with the kōrero, and let it be a ministry unto those that are listening in this space tonight. We welcome your Holy Spirit in thy name, the holy name Jesus Christ, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, tūturu, o whiti whakamaua kia tīna, i tīna, haumi e hui e, tā ki e. Kia ora tātou, over to whoever. Kia ora.
Awesome, cheers, Timmy. Yeah, again, on behalf of the team, kia ora, talofa, and a warm Pacific greetings to everyone on the call tonight. Just hopefully everyone would have seen already that this will be recorded, so hopefully that's okay with everyone. For those who don't know me, obviously my name is DJ Forbes. I'll be your facilitator tonight, but we want this Potu TOA to be as engaging as and informative as possible. So please, if you can, keep your cameras on. We'd love to see who we're speaking to tonight. And also keep your microphones on mute if there's some background noise. And by all means, use the chat function throughout. We'll allow some time at the end to answer any burning questions, and then we'll obviously have some time to open the floor and to hear from everyone. Also, a little disclaimer that we are professionals, and we're not claiming to know everything or preach that we think we know it all. So please keep that in mind. And for those who, obviously tonight's theme is the fear of shame, and we have two special guests who are going to help us unpack that topic and share some of their thoughts. So I'm just going to quickly introduce our guests, but we're obviously going to hear from them a little bit later on, but we'll get a little taste of who we've got on the panel. So guest number one is Lloyd Elisara, who went to Otago Boys, a proud dad of 4 and has a background in the youth education sector. Also a BA in law and education with a diploma in teaching, and also a postgrad in counselling. His current role is with the Chiefs in Super Rugby as their professional development manager. So I'm going to ask him some hard questions straight away, quick fire, go off mute for a second. I'm kind of disappointed that he's got his name as Chiefs Region. So that's probably quite typical of Chiefs mana when it comes to being proud of where they're from and all. So I'm going to ask that hard question straight away, bro, before you say anything. It's going to be a few quick fire questions. North Island or South Island?
North Island.
North Island. Waikato or Otago?
People.
Nice, bro. Cardio or weights? And excuse the dog in the background.
These days, weights.
Weights, nice. Holden or Ford?
Holden.
Can of beer or glass of wine?
Glass of wine.
Glass of wine. Nice. Cheers, bro. So I'm going to just keep everyone in suspense. We're going to hear from you very shortly. So let everyone sort of ponder on that. I'm going to introduce, obviously, guest number 2 is Alexis Pritchard, Olympian number 1196. First ever female boxer to win a bout at the Olympics for New Zealand. Won a bronze medal at the Commonwealth Games, Gold Coast 2018, under 57 kg category. runs her own mindset and performance coaching called Rebuild with Lex, which we'll probably hear a little bit more about later on. And in all her sporting endeavours and achievements, her greatest accomplishment, I could be wrong, but I'm just obviously reading off some background intel, was coming to the realisation that she was, or she is, good enough, which I think is a perfect fit for tonight's topic. So again, I'm going to hit you with, like that pun, I'm going to hit you with some hard questions as well.
Are you sure you want to hit a box?
All right, so kickboxing or MMA?
Neither.
Oh, come on. Kickboxing.
MMA. Oh,
right.
awful.
Block of chocolate or a bag of chips?
Chocolate.
Dinner at a restaurant or picnic at a beach?
Picnic at a beach.
10-day isolation, reading books or listening to music?
Reading books.
Nice. All right, so I'm going to leave it there and we'll keep everyone else in suspense. We'll hear from you very shortly. So I guess for those who are obviously here tonight, first time wondering or dialed in, you know, what's going on, this is called Potu TOA. Potu TOA is, if we break it down, we'll have some of our facilitators talking about it a bit later on, but we like to refer to it as a war room or the room of courage, a place where we can be brave, share openly, a place to unpack mental strategies and discover tools to help us battle the challenges we face daily. Potu TOA happens every 4 weeks and is part of a 12-week program called Fight the Good Fight, developed by the team at Love Somebody. And we've got one of the founders, Wes Faleolo, and program facilitator, Shah Atai, who will give us a quick rundown on what they do and tonight's topic. So on that note, over to you, Wes.
Great. Hey, everyone. Right, I'll just quickly share a screen. Yeah, absolutely. You're probably wondering, how do we get to the topic, the effects of shame? So yeah, like DJ was saying, we run a program called Fight the Good Fight. It's 12 sessions. We either run it for 12 weeks or 2 in 6 weeks, to a week. But just to really kind of give you an idea, I thought we'd just kind of share a bit about what we do. As DJ has said, Shah is also on board. He's going to help me do this. She's a facilitator. She's done the course and said, man, I'm putting my hand up to facilitate this, which was great. So hopefully you can see the screen and let's roll with it. Shah.
Awesome. Kia ora koutou. So great to be here with you tonight. So yeah, like Wes says, not only am I a facilitator, I've actually done the program, the 12-week program with my whānau during a challenging time. And I can tell you it's life-changing, it's transformational, and it will impact your life. And just this slide here, it is clinically proven. So we've given it out to some experts in the field. So it is based on research. It's nothing that we've just picked up and decided to run with. Yeah, evidence-based program.
Yeah, thanks, Shah. So how it kind of runs, we got something called the battle. Just quickly, the battle is what? It's something that's in between our heads. This is all about building resilience, and we know it's in the top of our head, that at the top 2 inches is where most of the battle happens. And these are just some of the common things we go through and what we kind of struggle with when we get into a battle. And this kind of talks about identity. What is it all about? Who am I? And then we go into the battleground, Aisha.
Yeah. And so, yeah, this battleground, like Wes shared, you know, there's a real battle that's taking place, and it's mostly happening, you know, between our ears. It's those inner voices, and it's just up here, it's sourced by 4 voices that can, you know, that we're battling against. And it can be a good voice, bad voice, our own voice, but also other people's voices. And we can replay those voices in our heads. So they can be, you know, they're either going to be good for us or bad with us, but we can learn how to filter those voices out.
Cool. Right, so what we've done is we've introduced something called the slice of heaven. What does it look like to you? What is your, if someone's to ask you, what is your slice of heaven? The common things that come up, it's like constant joy, sweet spot, love and peace, fruits of your labor. Integrity was one that came up. People are just sick of being dishonest and just want to tell the truth. Achievement and all the good stuff. So it kind of led to a couple of things.
And so the slice of heaven, if you think about it, it's what makes your heart smile. And we can think of, there's kind of like two areas that can make our, our sweet spot, or what makes our heart smile. It's either going to be a reward, which could be an outcome or a goal that you're working towards, or a state of mind. So a state of mind could be, I just want to be happy, or I just want to have peace during the day. And we need both of these things. We need to protect both these things, our rewards as well as our state of mind. So both are needed, and both are, we need to protect those things.
Cool. So these are the 9 character traits that we believe will help us protect our slice of heaven. For that peace of mind, you'll notice that peace is in there. Kindness, self-control, compassion, integrity's popped up again. Loyalty, joy, and patience. And we believe just going through all that it really does paint a different picture when you don't, I guess, operate in some of these character traits, which is why we say these are worth fighting for. And when you start to paint the picture and look at the opposites of these traits, you start to get some really ugly looking kind of, I wouldn't even know what to call it. Because we threw this at a few people and we said, what would you call this? So if you look at the opposite of compassion and compassionate, I still got to learn that. Integrity, dishonesty, loyalty, disloyal, joy, sadness, patience, impatience. And then if you park that word slice of heaven in the middle of it, it really doesn't kind of paint that picture. But we're not asking everyone to be perfect. We're asking people to, hey, man, these are symptoms of something. And it's usually caused by pain. And pain is usually caused by what? A lot of fear. So this is how we're kind of getting to shame. Throw that over. So we're going to, there's a fear of punishment that we unpacked during these 12 sessions, failure, the fear of rejection, and tonight, shame. And I just, again, thank you, the guests, for coming along, DJ hosting it all, and everyone involved, because that's a good one to unpack. And then when we look at it, and we talk about 2 different views, there's one on your left, we talk about a good wolf and a bad wolf. If they were in a battle, which one would win? So there was a wise chief, Indian native, and he was asked by his grandson, which of the 2 would win the battle, the good wolf or the bad wolf? And the chief answered, well, it's the one you feed the most. So it's all about, well, what are we feeding? Are we feeding the right side or the left side? And it resonates through the whole program. So it can be a tool to help you on the left, or it could be a tool of distraction on your right. And we put what we call an Eli in Samoa. It's a fan. And in the middle there, when your challenges come your way, we ask to pull out a fan, and before you react, slow down and think of how you're going to respond. So that's how it kind of is framed up. So I'll throw it back to you, Shah.
Awesome. And so if we're not managing this space, as we talked about the battleground, we can our sweet spot or our slice of heaven becomes quite distant, and other things start to take control if we're not managing that space well. So one of the areas that we do go into the program we talk about is the fear of shame. So the fear of shame could be not measuring up, or maybe not performing, or maybe shame of disappointing others, or maybe shame of rejection. There's so many different things. I know when my whānau did it, it brought up different things for each of us. But if we allow that shame to, take root, these are on the outside, what you can see the effects. So can lead to sadness. Even, I know hate's a strong word, but it could, lead to bitterness towards someone, which, if we let that grow, leads to hate. Even unkindness, we just not the happy person to be around. People don't want to be around us. So yeah, this shame is a big area that if it's not managed, can cause a lot of those things.
Nice. So that's where we are today. We're going to start unpacking shame. And this is where we get the professionals as opposed to us professionals, and we just unpack what the professionals say. This is clinically kind of proven, and this is what they say the effects of shame happens. It says when we base our identity on past failures, our dissatisfaction with personal appearance or bad habits, we often develop a false belief. I am what I am, I cannot change, I am hopeless, I'm ashamed of myself. And we don't want to try to do anything that might draw attention to ourselves, because we don't want people to discover the parts of us making us feel shame. So shame can be debilitating and result in us leading somewhat empty and unfulfilled lives. Over to you, Sis.
Yeah, also impacting on our thought patterns, okay, which leads to having a low self-esteem, or even that continual negative thoughts about yourself during the day, or even during the night. Yeah, and those attitude of just hopelessness. And sorry, I haven't got my glasses on. I'm straining to
That's cool.
And let go of our view of failure and the expectations of others. So again, our whole view changes, especially that when we're putting, when we're hearing that voice of others and we're trying to live up to the expectation of others, can actually have a real detrimental and impact on our whole well-being, our whole order.
Nice. And just a few more points. Our avoidance of shame can mean that we can often sit on the sidelines while others take risks. Sometimes you hear the biggest risk in life is not to take a risk. And so shame can really just get us not even knowing what we're good at. Sometimes we don't even bother to try because the fear of failure is so strong. We believe that failure will eventually bring about shame. So these are the ones that we're going to go through. If you join Fight the Good Fight and run it through our 12 sessions, we'll take you through these. Inferiority or feeling substandard, a few more clinical views on what the effects do, destructive behavioral habits, despising our appearance, self-pity, inactivity and isolation and withdrawal, loss of creativity and codependencies, and a whole lot of anxieties. And so shame makes, it plays a big part in regards to how we frame ourselves up. I'll throw this up at the end of the session, some of the things that we're coming up with. And if it takes us to a place, again, we're professionals, but if you've got questions there, we've thrown up numbers to help.
And can I just add to that, just, being a participant on this program, if you're in this listening in today, I just really encourage you, even if it's, you might be, you might do it as a whānau, or maybe you've got a group, the facilitators are awesome, and it's a really safe space. Again, for my family, it really impacted and was it was transformational, and it really helped us get through a really tough time. So yeah, reach out.
Cool. Well, that's Fight the Good Fight. Thanks for the time, DJ, letting us plug it.
Awesome. Cheers, guys. I think everyone, by that kind of info and content, there's a lot of stuff that we could obviously dive into. So hopefully that's given everyone a little bit of context about tonight's discussion. And then we obviously got the opportunity to speak to our wonderful guests. Again, thank you for giving up your time to be with us tonight. And so I guess we'll get both of you off mute, just so we're ready to go. And I guess what I got from that is shame typically stems from, I guess, what other people think. Well, that's definitely how I look at it. Why do you think, and this is open to both of you, why do you think people put so much validation on what other people think?
You go, Lloyd.
Sei mole Fisilia DJ. So I love mole avanoa ama maluso for male langi mama talofa lava. That is such a good question. My understanding around shame is it's more of an external thing, and so we feel guilty. That's more of an internal thing. So shame has a lot to do with external things and external factors. So it's not like you were born with shame. A lot of it's to do with the external factors and people, and the more there are, the more effect it can have. In my space, we have 72% Pacifico Māori. It's the second most in all of the super teams. I think it's the Hurricanes who've got the most, and then the Blues the third. But in that, we have a lot of Pacifico Māori who have a village mentality, work together. But in that, I've also noticed the effects of expectation from family, and also to deliver. And it can be pretty tough. So you talk about shame, and a lot of conversations I have around just bringing it back to why you're playing. And in my space, it's not too bad. A lot of the guys understand what the why is, and a lot of it, they've come to a place where they're quite confident that they're playing for themselves, for their family in a positive way. But just below our tier, we've got the NPC level, we've got the under 20s and the academy, and there's a high percentage, unfortunately, who are saying, I'm doing it for my dad and my family, I'm doing it for my mum, I want to buy them a house, I want to buy them kind of things. So there's a lot of expectation. And so when you don't perform, there's, I think shame is a big part of things when you don't perform. I'll pass over to you, Lex.
Thank you. That's absolutely how I would view it as well. Evening, everybody. For me, I guess it's also about, the households that we grow up in, but not only those that influence us. It's our school yards, it's our church communities, it's our communities. It's the bully on the side of at the lunchroom. It's all of those factors that add into this bigger picture of shame, and us also not understanding or realizing that we're being programmed for such an early age, from 0 to 7. We're just downloading all this information and trying to make sense of it all. And then it manifests itself in quite a different way when we're older, and it turns into something a lot bigger. So you could have little stories or little seeds that were planted in you when you were quite young, and as an adult it comes out in this big ugly situation later on. I'll just jump in and just start sharing a personal one, because this is a space to be vulnerable, I guess, and brave and courageous. So for me, I definitely had this feeling of not being good enough, and that was shame, and that was fear. And mine came from this. My dad wasn't around. He decided not to be in our lives, and he was kind of in and out all through the years. And I was like, am I not good enough to love? Like, why is this person who's supposed to love me not around? And so I carried that idea with me all the way into my 20s. When I was 28, I think I finally realized that I was good enough. This was after an Olympic Games. This was after a Commonwealth Games. This was actually a moment of loss at a 2016 World Championships, when I was realized, I was like, man, you're really good at boxing. And then on top of that, you're just good enough as a person. And it was pretty profound to also then make the connection of, I heard a story, or I created a story, and I made that story a fact. I have the power to turn that around and have the story serve me. I realized that that was my dad's stuff and it was my dad's issue. So I gave his luggage and back to him and I said, you have it back. I don't want it. I want a different story for myself. Yeah, so that's some of my shame. There we go. Suitcase open.
Nice. That was, I guess, part of my follow-up question. So well done on that. Probably to Lloyd, around the boys and the men that you're dealing with. How does shame obviously affect them, their mental health, or even your own mental health? And what are some examples of some of the traits that Shah and Wes mentioned? What in your workplace, what's the most common trait of feeling shame? Do the boys go into hiding? Is it, like they're saying, is it a codependency? All these other kind of factors and traits that were mentioned in the program on the slides. Is anything that sort of stands out quite commonly for, let's say, athletes?
Yeah, it's interesting. Most of the franchises, definitely our franchise, have really tightened up in the recruitment. And what I mean by that is they're going for good people. So you may be the best player in your first 15 or even club rugby, but if you're an idiot or someone who's not very nice, you'll probably go to the back and they'll probably go for someone else. And what I mean by that is we're starting to get a lot more young people who actually have got things a lot more together. But when I first started, there was a lot of the expectation I was talking about before. We had a lot of young island boys in particular who would turn up. You could physically see they'll turn up with a hoodie on and walk in, and you could almost tell what mood they were in by how they turned up. If they turned up with a hoodie on and sat in the back, they're having a really tough day that day of trying to get through. And Lex, where you're sort of talking about there around the not feeling good enough, I think there were some of them in there who are sort of suffering from that imposter syndrome thing. I definitely have. Like, man, when these people find out that actually I don't know what I'm doing, man, they're going to think I'm an idiot or feel like I'm useless, kind of thing. And that seemed to be a common one when I first started. Probably not so much today. What would be some of the well-being stuff? It's probably to do more with the support stuff and the lack of support. Interesting. I won't dive into it too much, but probably just the where we are as a society at the moment of trying to isolate and trying to separate the things. I think that really has a bearing on a lot of our village background people who, you're used to being with family and that, and now we're being called to wear masks and isolate and all that kind of stuff. That's probably having a toll on the well-being of being separated from support and family.
Nice, bro. I guess, you both probably touched on it already. And I'm probably sort of in that same space where I guess, there's a key component that stems from like who created or who gave the shame. So I know when I was young, and probably even, to a few years ago, feeling like I wasn't Samoan enough. So being a half caste, and typically sort of in my mind, I was thinking that it was shameful because I didn't know my language, if I couldn't speak full Samoan. But I think now when I've got a better appreciation of, that shame is created by, I guess, maybe tradition, but also probably some of the young island boys when I'd go to Samoa, they would sort of look at me like a half caste, and I wasn't good enough to be Samoan and that kind of thing. Like, what are some of the steps or some ideas that you guys could share how to to step away from giving them or giving those components the validation to create or to put that shame upon us?
Pass over to Lex because
that's a good question. The place that I would start with the people that I work with is about self-compassion and filling your own personal well, and looking after yourself first. And so you get that well as full as possible, but also know that well, once you fill it, it doesn't just stay full. You have to keep topping it up regularly. You have to keep topping it up. And so how do we fill that well? It is stuff around exercise, moving, good night's sleep, and having good nutritious food, whatever that food is, preparing meals with our families, our spirituality, connecting to our churches and our communities and our religion, our whakapapa, whatever it is that is your spirituality, connect to that and live into that. And then once we're feeling like we have a good place of stability, then we can start digging in to some of the uglier things that are lying below the surface within ourselves. And I also just said in the chat there that when we're strong enough, we can get to a place of sharing our shame, sharing our stories. And what that actually does as well is depower the story, because now we take ownership of the story. Whereas before the story was owning us and was pushing us down. When we are in a place where our well is full and we are understanding that our story is just a story, it's not actually a fact, we can start changing it. And then you just really slowly start changing the narrative. It takes a long time to unpack it. You want to decide what you actually want to feel, or you decide what you actually want to think. So around the I am not good enough, as an example, I was like, well, I don't just want to be good, I want to be great. So how do I give myself permission to do that? Because I hold the permission. You hold the permission. Nobody else can hold the permission for you and yourself and your thoughts. So then it becomes about programming yourself every day. So I used to wake up every morning and, like, before I got out of bed, I'd be like, I, Alexis Pritchard, give myself permission to be great. I am powerful beyond measure. I'm grateful for all that I have. I still do that. And it makes me feel so good. And it also has helped me undo all that shitty garbage programming that has gone on. And think about it, like, I only decided at 28 to undo the programming. So I had 28 years of garbage thinking there, and I'm 10 years on from that. So we have to start somewhere. You have to start small. When you start, it's going to feel really uncomfortable. It's going to feel really like, who am I? What am I talking about? Why do I think that I can be great or good or whatever it is? Maybe you don't start at great. Maybe you start at I am good or I am okay. And then once that word starts feeling a little bit easier to say about yourself, you go up to the next level. So, you know, if you started at good, let's go to great, then go to freaking magnificent, and keep elevating and keep pushing yourself in that direction. Yeah. Did that answer the question? I feel like I went off at a tangent.
Awesome.
I think you can put the whole book into that little bit there. That was so awesome. Can I ask Wesley to put up slide 9, please? And that was so good, Lex. Yeah, I just wanted to talk on that. And there's a guy named James Clear, and he does Atomic Habits. And if we just go to slide 9, here's something that might be useful for everyone who's on here. Certainly help me here. If you look on the left side, you've got the aroha. On the other side, you've got hate. Now, one thing that James Clear talks about, which I thought would be awesome to talk about, is that you have these traits, right? And if you view your traits and the things that you want to be like, once you decide who you want to be like Lex is talking about, the good thing is you need some evidence. And some of the evidence that can be shown is shown in habits that you have. So the good thing about one thing he talks about vote. So if you think about voting, so if you look on the left side, we'll make it nice and simple. If you do something that shows you're patient, like you'll wait for someone to finish talking before you jump in talking, then that's evidence of your patience. That's a tick. Cool. And then peace, like you get a chance to really not add to people where you actually jump in and you say some nice things and you bring peace or you bring joy. That's kind of cool. But then you have a chaos day, you have an impatience day. That's okay. That's a tick for the hate. But the thing about a voting system, all you need to do is have more on one side than the other side. So if you have more on the aroha side than you do on the hate side, you're showing everyone, showing yourself, proving to yourself that you're a person who's more of the aroha side than the hate side. So that hopefully will help stop that shame thing where you're feeling like, man, you're concentrating on all the hate stuff. I'm sad, I'm kind, I'm dishonest, I'm incompassionate, ill-disciplined. But actually, you know, today I've proven that I'm patient. I've shown that I have joy, and I've been kind, even though I was unkind earlier today. And you know what? I was dishonest to DJ, but today I didn't say da. But I did show compassion to an old lady when I was walking across the road. So as long as you're showing, as long as you have ticks more to one side than the other, all you need to do is have more on one side to really prove to yourself and to show yourself and evidence-based to yourself that you are a person of aroha than hate. Does that make sense? Mm. So instead of like going down that spiral, like you do something unkind and dishonest, and all of a sudden I'm a dishonest, unkind person. And if you break it up and say, well, actually, what's the evidence that's really showing that I am the person that I want to be, that I'm just guessing all of us want to be more of the aroha side than the hate side, that as long as we have more on one side, hopefully that'll stop us from going into that spiral, that you concentrate on one thing about being impatient, and that's who you are, that one thing. But actually, if you break it up and say, well, actually, my behaviors, I'm showing evidence to the aroha side, hopefully that will help move us away from that spiral of going down to shame.
I like that, Lloyd, creating a log of evidence. I think it's like write it down as well. Not only maybe not just the tick, but write the example of where I was joyful or where I showed kindness and compassion. That'd be pretty cool. And then you can go back and have a look at it and be like, oh yeah, here's the evidence. Yeah. Here's the body of evidence that I've built up. That's awesome.
If we go back to what DJ was talking before, that one voice, and it might be an influential voice in your thing, the person you really care what they think about. If you have a lot more evidence, hopefully you'll start listening to the evidence and taking the evidence into to heart and saying, you know, even though I've got one person who says that negative thing, I am not that negative thing. I'm these other things that I want to be.
Nice. I think the only thing I can add to that, because you guys are obviously ahead of my questions, you're very knowledgeable, was probably just the word affirmation. So just using those, like you're saying, ticking the words off is just really affirmation, because the question was around, you know, what kind of steps can we rebuild in terms of changing that thought pattern of shame would be ideally there. Like you're saying, more affirmation you can give yourself, more credibility, stepping into that side, into the love side rather than to the hate. So I guess, you know, like the world is, you know, these days around social influence and whatnot, and a lot of people talk about building a support network that builds you up, you know, having a small circle, or, you know, having people around you that empower you. How do you go about finding a group like that only wants nothing but the best for you? Because when you talk about having people that are gonna you know, not cast any fears or any doubts of shame on you, yeah, how do you go about finding a group that's purely there to empower you, that wants to lift you up in today's landscape? Can
I just jump back to the other thing with affirmations? The other thing is that, you know, it's been a real fun thing for me to do, is to name my brain, name the voice inside my head that is saying the mean things, saying the unhelpful things. So her name is Janet. I'm sorry if there's any Janets on this call or any Janets in your family, but her name is Janet. And whenever Janet says, hey Lex, who do you think you are, getting up in front of those people and giving a talk, who do you think you are? Like you know nothing. Then I'd be like, hey Janet. So then it becomes a conversation between Janet and I mean, like, what's your evidence for this, Janet? Who do you think you are, Janet? Stop being so mean, Janet. And then it doesn't become me. Then it's the thought is not me saying it. It's this ugly voice, Janet. And then you can start to like decide, is like, do you listen to Janet, or do you listen to the love in your heart that's probably saying it very quietly and going, yes, you can do this. Yes, it's going to feel uncomfortable. And yes, we're a little bit afraid, but we can walk towards courage. We can work towards bravery. We can walk towards the hard things. And Janet's just being mean. She's just, you know, you don't associate with mean people generally. So why would you hang around with a mean person inside your head? You can actually tell Janet to keep quiet. Yeah, which has been a fun little exercise for me to do over the last few years. I would encourage you, if you have a voice, name it and then start questioning it. Yeah. Lloyd, do you want to take the bit about the finding that group of friends that elevate you?
Cool. First of all, you got to look in the in your social media, and you got to find all the Janets.
Yeah.
Cut them? No, don't cut them. So it's interesting. Though I think if you come back to the very first thing of the people that we want to be, I know it sounds simple, but I actually think as you start changing, you have less time for people you don't want to be like. Would that be? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if you want to be more kind, you don't have as much patience to be with unkind people. You're probably a bit more short. Like, time is so short. You're probably, once you're fixated in your mind, you're saying things out loud about yourself. This is who I am. I'm a generous person. I'm a kind person. I'm this one. I'm honest. All these different things. You're less likely to hang out with other people who are showing those traits that are opposite, on the hate side. So it's almost a natural effect of you making the internal changes. And of course, you'll start going through, social media is a good one. You can go through and say, you know what, I haven't heard one decent positive thing from these different people for the last 3 years. Why are they even part of my social media stuff? I mean, the social media is a different conversation for another day, but social media in itself is quite a tough thing. If you don't have to be on social media, then maybe, there could be a question for yourself, like what does social media play in your life? But in terms of hanging out with different people, I think there's a natural culling of people that you want to be like. I mean, if you think about everyone that's online now who's married today, how many people do you hang out with from when you got married from the first time? There's a natural progression of, as you grow, just people just sort of fall off and things. I hope that makes sense. I'll pass it to Lex to make it make sense.
It totally made sense, Lloyd. The other thing I would add to that is, when you are with these people, whoever they are, start connecting to the feeling that you feel while you're with them. So if you are in a group of people and you're like, man, I feel turbulent inside, I feel chaotic, I feel unsettled, it's probably not the right group for you. Then you need to start making some hard, brave decisions. You can either just moonwalk out of there and be like, quietly say goodbye and just leave it. Or you could have a grown-up conversation and just say, hey, look, it's been great knowing you. My life is going in a different direction. All the very best. And then leave it there. And then you start thinking about the people in your life, and you connect with them, and you're like, oh, this person makes me feel like sunshine and rainbows. This person makes me feel seen and heard, and this person elevates me. That's the person that I want to give more energy and more time to. So that's the way that I have definitely gone about it in the last few years. I was a little bit of a helper for a bit. And what I noticed when I looked around was I only had people that I was helping in my close circle, and that's not where they should be. They should be further out. My closest circle should be people that elevate me and that give me energy. And it's taken the last 5 or 6 years to actually just change that a little bit. And so I've got 4 beautiful souls inside that inner circle. And when I see them, I feel seen and heard. I feel joy, I feel love, I feel all those wonderful things that make me want to go out into the world and do something cool. And I even have girls that are like, yes, queen, and that's all they that's what they say for you. And go find those people.
It can be quite tough. I'll just comment on that next. You might have to make some difficult decisions, because going back to James Clear, he talks about 3 levels of influence, and there's the people who are close to you, there's the masses, and then there's the powerful and the big influences that own your life. And you might actually find these people outside of your close circle, like your family aren't as positive as you'd want them to be. You might have to make those hard decisions. Of course you'll catch up when you need to, but then you'll probably end up hanging out with people, being more intentional with the people who actually build you up, and you can build them up. And what Lex said about how you feel, that's awesome, like that.
So I'll just follow up on that. So Lex kind of touched on one of the final questions I had. So to you, Lloyd, what and if you could put it in a nutshell, what does inner peace look like to you?
What does inner peace look like for me?
Yeah.
That's the one I wanted Lex to answer.
So while you're pondering that, I'll just share with our audience. So in the piece, in terms of what people are mentally prepared to give up. So some of the things that were touched on are obviously toxic people, self-blame, chasing happiness, long-term. So just we want long-term. Staying comfortable, the victim mentality, trying to impress, pursuit of perfection, grudges, quest for material things, complete self-reliance, anxiety. So these are all these kind of like things in terms of if you're looking for that inner peace, mentally prepared people are willing to give up those things. So I guess, on that note, Lloyd, what does inner peace look like to you right now?
Yeah, I'm at the stage of my life, growing up, I'm quite traditional upbringing where you study, you get a job, buy a house that's leverage for the rest of your life, and then, have a family and then kids, and then the kids have kids. That's kind of like the route. But when you get to a particular place, you're kind of like, there's got to be more to life. There's got to be more to life than they're just doing that blueprint for life. And really, it's just really finding purpose and meaning, and how do you make the most of your days. Time is moving on, and whether you do something within that time that's moving on, I just have less time to be around feeling turbulent. Like, I will use your terminology, Lex. I have less time for that. If I'm in a place where I'm feeling unsettled and things, I have to make a decision like, is this good for me? Like, I need to grow, or is this not good for me because I'm surrounded by people that actually I don't want to be like what these people are like, you know what I mean? So I'm making more of those decisions like, is this a good place for me to be in or not so good place? So is this growing me, or is this actually chipping away at who I want to be and I don't want to be, So for me, I'm a lot more intentional. Like, if I can, I'll spend more time with my family, and if I need to jump on a Zoom and hang out with some cool people like now, then I get to do that. That's kind of cool. That's building me. It's good for me, and good for my family, I think, in turn. So I hope that answers the question. I'm just more intentional with my time, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Awesome. Any closing thoughts from you, Lex?
I've decided to be very intentional about the values that I want to live into. So my current values, and they keep shining through. Courage has always been there. I want to live a courageous life. So what does that look like? It's going to look very different at different times, but like climbing mountains on my own, that is a courageous act. Having hard conversations, that is a courageous act. Being vulnerable, that's a courageous act. So those are things that I want to do. I want to be courageous in my actions. And then I also want to be joyful. I chase joy, and I want to feel joy. Joy is actually a really hard emotion to feel because you have to let go. So like I'm 38, I'm up the front of the club, I'm dancing, like I'm doing the things that make me feel joy. But maybe it also just is a sunrise. So I intentionally go and do the thing that I know will make me feel good. And then lastly, the other one that for this year, it's been more apparent is like being grateful for the simple things in life. The good conversations, the good meals around the table with my family, with my friends, just the tiny, tiny things. Like I have a warm bed to sleep in. So many of us don't. So gratitude. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so on that note, I think we've got some time to open the floor. So if anyone has any burning questions, either raise a hand and we can take you off mute, or please chuck it in the chat so there's not that awkward silence that everyone hates in Zoom land. Otherwise, we're going to have to go to our resident DJ to sing us a waiata while we wait. So if anyone's got any questions, either pop off mute, otherwise chuck it in the chat. We've got a poll as well to put up that will get everyone to submit their answers on, so that should pop up very shortly.
I think Lila had a question. I can't find what she typed up on chat, but unless Lila just wants to ask.
Well, thank you, Wesley, for just remembering my question. I think it was predominantly answered by Lloyd. And Lex, thank you so much for your time. And it's great in the sense that you can talk about some of the things that we can actually do ourselves. I was actually asking that if you're not in a space where you're not struggling with recognizing, you know, or finding a way out, or knowing where to turn, how to start, like you said, or even to ask a question, then is it possible that you could be that positive for those people who are going through the negatives, so that your voice can be their loud positive in the times that they're kind of like constantly surrounded by negatives? Is it possible that the things that you might say, those positive affirmations that you would normally say to your Janets, that you could speak to their Janets as well and make them walk away with some, you know, just that seed of hope and perhaps positivity?
I think that's possible. Just probably one thing to be aware of. For some of us who are, what do they call, introvert extroverts? Is that what I mean? Like people who look like they're extroverts, but actually they need their time at home to regenerate and to refresh. It can be sort of like that as well. If you're going to use up all your energy to try and be positive in a negative space, you probably just have to weigh that up, the toll, because it does take a toll on you. And it's possible you can make a change in some places and things, but just be aware of the toll it can take on you mentally, emotionally, you know, just trying to get some little change. And if you're happy with that little change, sweet. But if you're realizing that you don't have as much patience for your loved ones and the people that love you and that you love, there's probably have to weigh it up, like, oh, okay, how much is it worth, you know, in terms of trying to push against the negativity or things that are sort of going towards what you want to be like. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So it's basically also knowing what you're capable of contributing
100%.
without and taking on, so not taking on too much and just recognizing those boundaries,
And you'll probably be able to recognize by how much patience you have with your loved ones. And some of us will have loved ones they'll let you know pretty quickly. You're not being so cool tonight. What's going on? You'll be like, oh man, I didn't actually realize that it's taken a toll on me. So that's probably why it's so kind of cool having some close people who can tell you the truth. Yeah.
I also would just like to add that the work needs to be done by them. You can definitely be a supporting voice and help them, but if they're not going to do the work, your voice is just going to sieve through. Like, you'll say the nice thing, but they won't actually hear it, which is really unfortunate. So it's about how can you be of assistance while they work on themselves. Yeah.
Do we have any more questions from the floor? Now is your chance, so please do not be shy.
Just while we're waiting on some questions, it was interesting when I saw the question that was posed to me, which was overcoming the fear of shame. And there's almost an anticipation of shame. So if you know what shame feels like, the fear of that feeling of shame is actually another layer. Do you know what I mean? So there's the shame and there's the fear of that thing. And sometimes the actual fear can be more overwhelming than the actual shame. And I was telling the guys before everyone jumped on that my 9-year-old boy, he's positive. He tested positive last Wednesday, and I think it was DJ asked me, "Oh, how was he?" And I said he was sick for about 3 hours in the morning, and then in the afternoon he was kind of talking. The next day he was jumping out and running around like it was nothing. But the fear of lockdown, the fear of the Omicron and everything was way bigger than the actual thing itself. And so I'm just thinking, I just thought it was interesting, overcoming the fear of shame. So sometimes the fear can be a lot bigger than the shame itself. Just putting fear in its place, perspective.
That's an awesome point, Lloyd.
I think it's good that you mentioned that, because I know initially when everyone talks about Omicron and everything else, it is like there was that whole attachment to shame if you caught it, this and that, catching it and whatnot, and that kind of segregation between who caught it and who hasn't. Whereas now it's, and as quickly as it probably needed to happen, it's sort of normalizing the whole, okay, you know, you got it, carry on, move on. It's no kind of fault of anyone's, it's just part of the process. And I think, again, if you go right back to the start around how that shame is created, it stems from somewhere. And I guess it was that initial kind of thing around the virus and everything else and catching it. And then that, like you're saying, obviously presents this whole thing about the shame. And then all of a sudden everyone's thinking, oh, you know, if I don't want to catch it, I'm going to be, you know, feeling the shame if I do die, don't tell anyone and things like that. So everyone starts treading on eggshells. You know, and I'm the same, Lloyd, you know, my daughter caught it and then now my wife's got it. And so there's just the boys in the house that are, you know, do we try and avoid it, or we just say, oh, well, we're next, we'll just, you know, carry on as per, and, you know, there's no kind of shame in it. There's no qualms about it. We just carry on with life. So for the sake of time and for the sake of looking professional, I'm going to say we're pretty much close to wrapping things up. We promise everyone 8 to 9 o'clock. So unless there's any other burning questions from the floor, please ask now. Otherwise, I'm gonna flick it back to Wes to wrap us up. That sounds like we're all good. So just quickly before Wes, again, to Lloyd and to Lex, man, it's been a massive opportunity to pick your guys' brains. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and obviously for giving us your time. In today's world, it's a high priority, so we appreciate you guys being online with us. So over to you, Wes, to wrap us up.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to throw it back to our brother Timmy. Thank you guys, man. A lot of takeaways, you know, on top of, you've taken it to another level in regards to fighting the good fight. There's a lot said, a lot of takeaways, a lot of gold. And hey, can we just use some of that in our program too? Because I love the Janet. Tell Janet to jam it, but it's so good, the techniques and what you're sharing. I love it. But hey, let's stick to time. My brother Timmy, if you got anything to say, bro, I'm going to throw it to you in regards to your view, and I'll leave it for you to close if that's all good with you, brother.
Hey, also, thank you, Tuakana. Yeah, first and foremost, all praise, honor, and glory to God for bringing this together tonight. I want to acknowledge our speakers tonight, Lloyd, brother, whawhetei tele, alofa tele aku, and also to Lex, your powerful story, and thank you for sharing your wisdom in this space and the authenticity of your kōrero, man. It's sharp as, you know, you both brought something very unique tonight in my observations and what I felt tonight, and man, really powerful stuff, and I'm just blessed to be in the space amongst you guys as also. And DJ, my man, holding the fort, brother, just want to acknowledge you too, te rangatira, and also to Shah and holding space with Wes tonight also, and everybody else that's joined in tonight. And I think Ethel might have disappeared, but for those that were all here tonight, just want to acknowledge you all and your families tonight in the space that we're all living in. So I just want to think about those that are unwell, that are mawiwi at this time through the COVID situation, just asking for restoration and healing upon all of our whānau out there that may be affected in this way. So but thank you, everybody, and yeah, man, that's us. We'll close up in prayer tonight. So moriori kia tātou katoa. Let us pray. Father, we give thanks, honor, and glory to your name tonight. Just pray the blessing over every home, every house, you know, every individual that's in this room tonight, and that if anybody has taken things away from tonight, that it would be nurtured in that space for the well-being and for the encouragement to be uplifted within our own individual spaces, and the mental challenges that we are all faced with from time to time, and the spiritual well-being and what that looks like in our own individual spaces, and our physical well-being also, Lord. We pray for the strengthening of our whanaungatanga within our families also. We submit everything to you, Lord, and the first thing that we pray against is the spirit of fear, for God did not give us a spirit of fear, but he gave us a spirit of power, of love, and of a sound mind. So tonight we pray this prayer, along with a bit of scripture there too, in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. Tuturu o whiti whakamaua kia tina, tina, haumi a hui e, tā ki e. Mauri ora whānau.
Great, thank you so much.
Yeah, awesome.
Thanks, everyone. Shalom.
Thank you, everyone. It's been awesome.
Thank you.
Kia ora, tō whāsui fua.
Cheers, Rog.
It was good listening. It was good listening. Well
Roger,
done, team.
Roger,
Mano,
Roger,
mano,
over
mano.
24 years. Also,
Been a
how are
long
you, my man?
time. Been good, brother. Been good.
Your arms have gone bigger.
It's 10% they add on the screen, apparently. Silly, I love the Chiefs feature. Go the Chiefs.
My screen shows my stomach 10% bigger.
Kia ora, everyone. Malo teach. Yeah. Whāsui fua.
Yep.
Take care.
Yeah. Whā.
Buddy.
Thanks, team. That was awesome. Well done, everybody. Lloyd, loved it.
Thanks.
Loved it.
Good. Awesome, Lex.
So
think,
powerful.
Lex, you're on a mission to make me cry, eh?
Oh, man.
Ah, how much more do I need to give? How far away was I? I feel like a failure now.
Join us next time when we cover our next topic.
Yeah.
You guys are so good,
It was
man.
beautiful.
So good.
So much wisdom, such beautiful sharing.
So
I think
good. Yeah.
everyone got so much out of that. And
Well,
just the
DJ, just get these guys again next time.
yeah, you can be regular features. That was amazing.
Happy to jump in wherever I can to help.
Awesome.
Easy.
Yeah, taking it to another level. So good.
New level.
Thank you.
I just have to fix the lighting. This is the only quiet room in the house.
I was going to say, I love your wallpaper.
Yeah, it's got